Two women started the same job with the same salary. 1 year later, one of them was still being called reliable. The other was being prepared for a promotion. And the uncomfortable part, the reliable one often worked more, not less. More. So what happened? This is not a story about lazy people beating hard workers. It is not a story about pretending, politics, or talking more than you work. It is a story about money. Because for most people, the biggest financial asset is not their stock portfolio. It is their income. And if two people start with the same skills, the same salary, and the same effort, but one learns how to turn work into visible value, the gap does not stay small. It shows up in raises, then in job offers, then in emergency savings, then in how much freedom they have when life gets expensive. If you have ever thought, I do so much here, why do they not see it? This story is for you. Because sometimes the problem is not that your work has no value. Sometimes the problem is that your value is invisible to the people who decide your pay. Rachel and Maya joined the same operations team at a mid-sized company in Chicago. Both were 32, both were smart, both were experienced, both started at about $72,000 a year, and both wanted the same basic thing: to build a stable life, pay their bills without panic, and feel like their work was finally taking them somewhere. Rachel believed in a rule she had carried since childhood. If you do great work, people will notice. Maya believed in something slightly different. If you do great work, make sure people understand what changed because of it. At first, that difference looked small. After 1 year, it was not small anymore. Rachel became the person everyone trusted when things went wrong. On a Tuesday morning, a client report broke 2 hours before a meeting. The numbers did not match. The team was nervous. The manager was already on another call. Someone said, "Ask Rachel." Rachel dropped what she was doing, stayed calm, rebuilt the report, found the mistake, and sent the corrected file before the meeting started. Everyone was relieved. Someone messaged her, "You saved us again." And she had. But by Friday, nobody was talking about it. That was the pattern. A new employee was confused? Rachel explained the process. A coworker missed a deadline? Rachel helped clean it up. A client was angry? Rachel wrote the careful email. A system was messy? Rachel quietly fixed it. She was valuable, very valuable. But her value kept disappearing inside words like helpful, dependable, and team player. Those are good words. But are they raise words? Not always. Maya also worked hard, but she paid attention to a different question. Not just what needs to be done, but which work will matter after the crisis is over. When her manager mentioned that client onboarding was slow, Maya did not simply volunteer to help with a few accounts. She asked, "How slow is it right now?" The answer was messy. Some clients waited 5 days. Some waited 9. Nobody tracked it clearly. So Maya built a simple dashboard. Nothing fancy, just client name, next step, owner, deadline, and delay reason. Then she reviewed it every Friday. After 2 months, onboarding delays dropped. Fewer clients complained. The team stopped losing tasks between departments. Maya did not make a speech about it every day, but she kept the numbers. Average delay before, 8 days. Average delay after, 5 days. Escalations down, manual follow-ups reduced. Now her work had a story, and that story could travel into rooms she was not in. That is one of the biggest money lessons most people learn too late. Your work might be real, your effort might be real, but if nobody can explain the result, it often becomes invisible at review time. At the end of the year, Rachel walked into her performance review, tired but hopeful. She knew what she had done. She knew how many problems she had solved. She knew how many evenings she had stayed late while other people logged off. Her manager smiled and said, "Rachel, you are incredibly reliable. The team really depends on you. We appreciate everything you do." Then he showed her raise, from $72,000 to $75,000. Not terrible, but not what she expected. A week later, the company announced Maya's promotion track. Her salary moved from $72,000 to $88,000. Rachel saw the message in Slack. "Congratulations, Maya." She typed, So deserved. Then she closed her laptop for a moment. Why her? Have you ever felt that? Not jealousy exactly. More like confusion. Because Rachel was not lazy. She was not careless. She was not doing nothing while Maya did everything. In many ways, Rachel worked harder. That is what made it hurt. For a few days, Rachel told herself the story most people tell when this happens. Maya knows how to sell herself. Maya is more political. Maya talks to the right people. Maybe some of that was true, but then Rachel saw something that changed the way she thought about money at work. Maya had left a printed review document on the conference room table. Rachel was not trying to spy. She only saw the first page. It did not say, "I worked really hard." It said, "Reduced onboarding delays by 37%. Created a tracking system used by 4 departments, saved managers roughly 10 hours per month in manual follow-ups. Helped prevent 2 client escalations. Trained 3 new hires on the new process." Rachel stared at the page. At first, she felt angry. "I do things like that too," she thought. Then a quieter thought came after it. "Yes, but I never say them like that." That was the turning point. Maya was not turning fake work into money. She was turning real work into visible value. Rachel was doing real work too, but she was leaving it unnamed. An unnamed value is easy to underpay. The difference between $75,000 and $88,000 is $13,000 a year. That may not sound life-changing at first, but $13,000 can pay off a credit card. It can build an emergency fund. It can increase a 401k contribution. It can turn a car repair from a crisis into an inconvenience. And more importantly, it becomes the new base for the next raise. A small salary gap does not stay small when every future raise is calculated from a higher number. This is where the story becomes financial. A raise is not just more money, it is more room to make better decisions. And if that gap grows again next year, it does not stay small. It becomes the starting point for the next job offer. Then the next retirement contribution. Then the next level of freedom. This is why earning power matters. Investing is important, saving is important, spending wisely is important. But if your work never turns into higher income, you are fighting with one hand tied behind your back. Rachel did not change overnight. At first, she felt uncomfortable. Writing down her results felt like bragging. Asking about promotion felt selfish. Saying no to invisible work felt rude. But she began with one small habit. Every Friday, before shutting her laptop, she wrote down 3 things. What problem did I solve? What changed because I solved it? Can I measure it in time, money, risk, clients, errors, or speed? The first week was awkward. The second week was easier. By the 3rd month, Rachel had a list she had never had before. She had reduced repeated reporting errors. She had trained 2 new employees. She had created a checklist that prevented last-minute client issues. She had answered so many quick questions that she realized one of them needed to become a process, not a favor. That was the second change. Rachel stopped being only the person who rescued everyone. She started becoming the person who fixed the reason they needed rescuing. When a coworker came to her for the same problem again, Rachel said, "I can help you one more time. But let's build a guide so this does not keep happening." When her manager asked her to take on another urgent cleanup, she said, "I can do that, but if we fix the process behind it, we can stop losing hours every month." Same Rachel, different language, not louder, clearer. 6 months later, she asked for a meeting with her manager. This time, she did not say, "I have been working really hard." She said, "Over the last 2 quarters, I reduced recurring reporting errors, trained 2 new hires, created a checklist the team now uses weekly, and cut down repeated manual cleanup. I want to discuss the path to a senior role and the compensation range for that role." That was a different conversation. Why? Because her manager was no longer hearing only effort. He was hearing business value. Rachel was not learning how to brag. She was learning how to protect her earning power. Because if she could not explain her value, every raise, every promotion, and every future job offer would be based on someone else's smaller version of her work. Rachel did not get everything immediately. That would be too easy. But 3 months later, her salary moved to $82,000. And more important, she finally understood the game she had been playing without knowing the rules. Maya kept growing too. Rachel no longer saw her as the enemy. She saw her as proof. Not proof that hard work does not matter, proof that hard work needs a translator. Because companies do not always pay for exhaustion. They do not always pay for loyalty. They do not always pay for being the person who quietly keeps everything from falling apart. They pay more easily for work that is visible, measurable, and tied to results. Is that fair? Not always, but ignoring it can be expensive. A nurse, a teacher, a caregiver, an engineer, a technician, a manager. Different work has different stakes, and not all value can be reduced to a number. Some work matters, even when the spreadsheet cannot capture it. But in many corporate jobs, office jobs, sales jobs, operations jobs, and professional roles, your financial growth depends on more than effort. It depends on whether the right people understand what your effort changes. 1 year earlier, Rachel thought money at work was simple. Do good work, wait, be noticed. Now she understood a harder truth. Do good work, measure it, communicate it, use it to build leverage. That is not fake. That is not arrogance. That is making sure your work pays you back. By the end of the 2nd year, Rachel had not become rich. But something had changed. Her paycheck was higher. Her confidence was higher. And for the first time, her work was not just helping everyone else move forward. It was moving her forward, too. Maya once told her, "I never wanted to look better than you. I just learned early that if I did not explain my value, someone else would define it for me." Rachel remembered that, because it was true. If you do not explain your value, the company may still appreciate you. They may praise you, they may rely on you, they may call you essential. But appreciation is not the same as compensation. Being needed is not the same as being paid. That is the financial lesson. Hard work matters, but invisible hard work is often paid like invisible work. So the question is not only, how hard am I working? The better question is, can the people who decide my pay clearly see what my work is worth? Because the difference between those two questions can become thousands of dollars a year. And over a career, it can become the difference between always being useful and finally being paid like you are.